I hope that most of you know, that have read, that American corporations have been holding huge amounts of money in accounts overseas. And that's because of the tax law of the United States. If you can make the claim that the money you have, say your Apple computer, which is one of the major doers of this business, if you've sold lots of Apple computers in China or in Africa or wherever it is, then you can take that money that you've earned by selling all of that stuff, and if you keep it in an account, the money, overseas, you don't have to pay taxes on it. It's profit you earn without taxes. You have to pay taxes on the profit you earn for goods produced and sold in the United States, but not on your foreign operations. So American companies have been keeping more and more of their money in foreign accounts because then they don't have to pay the taxes that the government levies on them. Some of you have heard about things like tax havens. You know, the Cayman Islands or Bermuda or Switzerland or Luxembourg. It would take me all night to give you the full list because there's so many, these countries competing for the fees of holding that money for American companies who, by holding them money in these other places, don't have to pay taxes here. Okay, so you know that this is a scam. It is extremely bad for the United States. Why? Because we're talking about, ready, hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes, which would otherwise go to the American government and make it possible either for the American government to do all kinds of things for its people that it isn't doing, or lower the taxes on the rest of us because the corporations are paying profit taxes as they should and would otherwise be required to do. So it's very bad for the rest of us, very good for the companies. And by a little clever accounting, they can make profits appear anywhere in the world. They have subsidiaries everywhere. That's easy to do. And so we've accumulated more than $1 trillion sitting in foreign accounts. Only the American business community could then come up with the following idea. Gee, you American people, I'm being polite, say these corporate executives, you American people. It's a terrible shame that all that money is out there. If you would bring it home to America, then it would be here and available to do good and funny things here, which it can't do because it's there. And the way to bring it from there to here is to give them a tax holiday. I told you this could take your breath away. In other words, because they have cheated the United States out of taxes for years, that becomes an argument to give them a tax break now. To let them say, if you bring it home in the next 6 months or a year, you'll either pay no taxes at all or maybe 5% or way less than you would otherwise. It's, in other words, a reward for having done what they did. And now comes the best part. This should be done. By the way, this is something that has been proposed not only by the Republicans, but by the Democrats also. Okay? So now the argument goes, why do we all want this? Because if the money comes back, you see, it will be available here in the United States, and it will be invested, and it will create jobs. The minute a businessman or woman starts justifying anything he or she is doing on the grounds that they are a job creator, try to find a large rock in order to express your rage at what is about to be told to you. So let me give you the example in this case. We're going to bring the money back if you give us the right tax break, we big companies. And we're talking about the biggest companies doing this, Apple, Google, all the big names that you're familiar with. Here's the problem with all of this, which they're counting on you not to know, which is why it's important for me to explain it to you. Over the years, these big companies have realized that they don't have to do without the money that they've got stashed away in foreign accounts in order to avoid paying taxes. Here's what they can do, and this is what they've been doing. They've been going to American banks, and indeed to foreign banks, and they have been, ready, borrowing equivalent amounts of money. In other words, you're a big company, you have $200 billion sitting in accounts in Europe. You borrow $180 billion here in the United States. You pay record low interest rates, 1%, 2%, 3%. Meanwhile, you're saving 35%, which is the corporate profits tax rate on the money you've kept abroad. So you're not doing without the money. You have all that money. You just did it in this indirect way by borrowing. And guess what they did with the money they borrowed, these big companies? Did they go on an investment binge to hire lots of workers? No. They buy each other. It's a big use of the money. Mergers and acquisitions, it's called. They boost up the stock price by buying back shares of stock from the public. And they raise the salaries of their top executives. That's what they use the money for. And here's what it means, folks. When the Republicans and the Democrats give them the tax break, the low rate to bring back the money, they'll bring back the money, taking advantage of the no taxes, and they'll pay off their loans with that money. End of story. They will have made out like bandits. There are no jobs that are going to be created by that money. There isn't free money because it'll come back to pay off the loans they made in the interim while they waited. And you and I will have been ripped off for years of this hustle.